Hello, this lab we're going to be speaking about chromatography. I encourage all my students in every class to take Latin if they can, if they have it in their high schools or grade schools, or even college. I took it in high school and in college. A lot of our root words come from, and all the Romance languages are all linked back to Latin. So we're going to talk about chromatography. If you guys have heard and figured out what chrome is, you've seen Chromebooks. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. The Chromebook insignia is made up of what? If you remember, at least three different colors, right? So chrome is color. So we're going to examine the color, and that actually mapping out almost a fingerprint to identify something specific. In this case, we're going to be talking about some magic markers. So what we need for this experiment, and again, you should have all this ready because all these items are on our website. You're going to need a ruler, a pair of scissors, some white coffee filters. Any coffee filter will work, but white will be it'll be a lot more pronounced. 2 pieces of paper, and I have here 5 magic markers. And what we're going to do, and so we're going to need at least 6 containers. They could be, I'm going to use this as our control. So you need at least 5 or 6 different glasses. I have beakers here, and you're also going to need some water. Now these magic markers should be water soluble, non-permanent. That should do the trick. If they're permanent markers, you won't get an accurate result with what we're trying to achieve here. Now, when I'm teaching this class, I asked the class what color of magic marker this is. And you can all see probably from where you're standing or sitting, this is a black magic marker. And I go through all the colors of the magic marker. So what we're going to do here is compare these different magic markers to the known sample. So what the scenario is that on this coffee filter, and again, it doesn't have to be a coffee filter, it could be a piece of water, but for demonstrative purposes, we use a coffee filter because we really want to show this. A kidnapper has actually gone and written a note, and what it says, and I know you can't read this, and I'm going to have a hard time reading it myself because it's my handwriting. We want $1 million to, if you want to see her again, signed the kidnapper. So we have not only a writing sample, which we can analyze later, but we can also analyze the actual ink that was written on. So what we're going to need to do that in order to prep is get our coffee filter. And the coffee filter is essentially double-sided, so we only need one of those sides, like so. So now we've got 2, and I just knocked off basically 2 or one side that binds those 2 sides together. And what we're going to do is create some even strips on that coffee filter. And we're only going to need as many as the number of pens you have in the house. Put that aside. That we're comparing, rather. And again, preferably, they should all be the same color because it's a little bit more difficult to figure out which black pen, or in this case, which pen actually made that note. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do right now is, this is our known sample. Now, what I need the parents to do is actually take one of these pens outside of your eye shot, near shot of your kids, and draw a line and keep track of that magic marker that you are actually writing that note at, or at least that sample note. So in this case, we take this coffee filter, and essentially I have a line on that. So what I'm going to do with my magic marker right down to the bottom end of that is create a line with that one magic marker. And I'm going to put the number 1 on there. Also on one sheet of paper, I'm going to put the number 1. And put that aside so it's in the number 1 spot. I'm going to do that with all of the magic markers. You probably do this with one sheet of paper. We're going to try to do it with one sheet. So with the second magic marker, we're going to do the same thing right at the bottom sheet or bottom part of the coffee filter or chromatography paper. We're going to put a line, and we're going to put number 2 on there. And number 2 we're going to keep track of right there as well. Now that known sample, which is what the kidnapper's note came on, is what we're going to use. And again, if you can kind of send them out of the room or just have them turn their heads so you don't know which sample you're using, that's going to be our known sample, and we'll put that right there. They can come back in now. And you're going to continue marking as many markers as you have, and that's sample number 3. And you might not have as many magic markers as I do, and that's okay. Sample 4. Well, actually, with that second piece of paper, you can actually keep track, just so that there's no chance for error and confusion. You can keep track of which magic marker you're using. And in this case, and that was number 5. And we're going to put on that sample that we grabbed earlier, K for kidnapper, in the glass. All right, so they're all mapped out, and we're going to do the same thing at the bottom of the paper, again, to avoid confusion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the bottom of that page is what you should be indicating, and I put them on each strip itself, okay? We've got some leftovers here. If I didn't mention earlier, paper clips would be helpful for this practical exercise as well. And again, what we're going to try to figure out is which magic marker wrote that note. Now, if we seized all of these magic markers during a search warrant through the suspect's house, we can figure out, or at least one of them, we can figure, and this is obviously the prime suspect, we're going to be able to link that particular pen with who wrote that note. So on our kidnapper note, right, so it kind of touches the bottom, we're going to fold that chromatography paper, or in this case, a coffee filter, over so it doesn't move around too much, and put that right down the glass. Now it should be touching essentially the bottom of the glass, and what it should be doing is actually, so you can see it, is facing the inside of the glass. That black line that you put at the bottom of the paper should be facing the inside of the glass so you can see what's going on. All right, so that's the kidnappers, and you're going to go through each one of these and do the same thing. So in number 2, we're going to put that at the bottom of the glass, and again, these should all be flat surfaces, the flat surface of the paper. So what it basically is doing is, through capillary action, the water is bringing up and it's separating the mixtures of those colors, of that color of black, and separating them out. And again, this black magic marker, and I mentioned it earlier, is comprised of several different colors within, and we'll see some of those colors, but different proportions of those colors to make that particular black magic marker. Number 2. And again, I'm keeping these all in line so I can kind of keep track. 3. And if you don't have as many magic markers, that's okay. You can use other water-soluble or non-permanent markers, would work as well. Number 4. And again, all of these should touch the bottom. If they don't touch the bottom, you can kind of curve this around so it just touches the bottom part of the beaker or of the glass that you're using. That's number 4. And number 5. So again, it's very important not to move these pens around that are on the table because they are already labeled which sample goes to which. And then we have our killer sample or our kidnapper sample right there as well. All right, so very carefully, what I need you to do, and if this is not hitting the bottom of the page, and it looks like this is, what we're going to be doing is adding a little bit of water just so it hits the bottom of that piece of paper. Not the black line, but the piece of paper. So what that is doing with this coffee filter, essentially, is wicking up almost like a straw and separating out those different color constituents. And you'll see once we come back the results of this, and then we're going to compare that to, and do we do our colors here? Nope. Kidnappers. Kind of important to do. That's our comparison other. And we're going to see what looks like the kidnapper's note once we all take care of this and actually get these results. So we're going to revisit this once this wicks up and kind of figure out which pen, we will be able to figure out which pen 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 wrote that kidnapper's note based on this very, very quick and dirty experiment. All of the materials that you can have or you can find at your house. So we'll come back in a couple minutes.